Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeffrey Goodman, Director of Marketing and Development for the YMCA of Northwest Louisiana. And we're here at 318 Latino Studios for Shreveport-Bossier, my city, my community, my home. And this is a discussion I've been wanting to have for a long time. Our very special guest today is Mario Chavez. Mario.
Jeffrey, greetings.
Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Great to have you. So we're gonna cover a lot of ground today with you, but let's start here. On October 9th this year, you'll be the featured speaker at the free entrepreneurial event 1 Million Cups. In the description for the event, I love this. I stumbled across this. In this description for the event, it says, and I quote, "Many years and family members' electronic equipment later, coupled with countless times of being electrocuted and even accidentally starting a fire in his bedroom while learning the power of alternate current over direct current, it was only natural that Mario would find his way into the military, specifically the high-tech sector of FM transmissions and satellite communication." So my first question for you is, talk to me about the young Mario Chavez and his interest and curiosity about electronics.
Man, I'm actually shocked you were able to find that that bio and pull it up. It's always a funny story because I remember back as a child lighting my bed on fire and my mattress actually having flames and running down the hall to tell my mom, hey, my bed's on fire, and she was doing her exercise bike, and she said she didn't believe me. She's like, leave me alone, I'm exercising. So I run down the hallway to my brother's room and try to get some more help from him. And the help I solicited interrupted his Nintendo game. So he told me, "Oh, you killed me, get out of here." So I go back and sit on the bed. And of course, it wasn't a big fire. It was a small fire, and it smoldered out. And I'm sitting there with my mattress still red glowing. And my mom comes running in. "Is something on fire?" And I said, I tried to tell y'all. So it was funny because at that point, she had realized we can't really leave this kid alone, and we can't get him anything electronic for Christmas or his birthday that he will not take apart. So it was funny that they said that because I would go into my family members' rooms and take out any electronics that they had because I had this huge interest in taking things apart and making something different out of them. I remember as a kid, I wanted to be an electrical engineer. My goal was to invent things and make things and build robots. And it was interesting because I know as we go through this interview, we'll talk a little bit about my life. But I had a pathway which required education. And unfortunately, I left the education sector. But I still had that interest in technology. So when I joined the military, almost more of a have to than a want to, I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I definitely want to do something high tech because I enjoy stuff like that. And that's how I found myself into the satellite communication and GPS tracking sector of the military. Is I told the recruiter, and of course I'm aging myself, but back then we had DVDs. And I asked the recruiter to provide me with 3 DVDs of the most high-tech jobs that I could have. And that's where I found myself looking at the transmissions of communications. And I said, this sounds like what I would like to do. And that's how I found myself in the military and ultimately learning how to work on devices and then furthering my entire life path into working on small communication devices that carried over to truncated data, and what I now do is merchant services.
And would you say you had a fascination with taking things apart and making them different? Is that
yes. My dad can tell you stories. I actually built out a simulator of a rocket ship inside my closet. It was interesting because I think I may have been 9 years old back then. I told my dad to come into my closet, and I had a lawn chair for him. And then we shut the door, and what I had built out was switches, and the various switches would turn on fans and lights, different buzzards and signals within my closet that would simulate as we were moving through space. Different things would happen, like for instance, if we turn on the afterburners behind us, red lights would turn on and glow. And so like my dad, who was just looking around like, this is amazing. Like, when did you do all this? Of course, I had been working on it for a month. Didn't tell them because I was doing it in my closet. And of course, happened to need and borrow some of my family members' equipment, be it a blow dryer, which of course I got in trouble for later because certain people couldn't find their equipment, but it was typically in my room taken apart. So it was kind of like a hard rule on, you can't borrow my stuff. Don't touch your brother's stuff. Don't touch your sister's stuff, because they knew I was going to take it apart.
Well, I think we're gonna hear a lot about how you take things apart and make them different, but we'll hang on that thought for a second. So after 12 years in the military, you hung up I think that's right. If I get anything wrong, let me know. But after 12 years in the military, you hung up your combat boots to focus on your business, MersaTech. So my question for you is, tell me how MersaTech got started. And then also what exactly it does, and just what's become of this business that started with one customer.
No, that's a great question, Jeffrey. I remember I worked for the phone company. It was CenturyTel at the time. Now it's CenturyLink. And when I worked there, first off, I started in the collection department at 18. And then I migrated after I got the skills from the Army, where they promoted me to what was called a plant support technician. And I worked inside of the phone company, would take phone calls from business clients in the Shreveport-Bossier area, and whenever their network or their phone lines would go down, I would either dial into the switch to see if I could fix the situation, or I would dispatch a tech to go out to the field and fix the situation physically. Well, as I worked in my little cubicle, I was promoted quickly and already topped out at my pay, because I really enjoyed doing it. I really enjoyed fixing things, but I was fixing things virtually, and I wanted to be more hands-on. So I tried to become a technician to actually be that guy in the field. Now, unfortunately, as I stated before, my education path took awry. I didn't have a college degree, and I just had a general education studies from a GED from high school. So I didn't get the job. But it's kind of cool because God always has a plan for your life. And now looking back, I don't think I would have enjoyed doing that as much as I enjoy my life now. I was basically told no, and the door was shut. But as I sat there in my cubicle and I would fix things from a virtual standpoint, I would see the sales guys, because there's always two sides to a business. You got sales and you got service. Well, I was always on the service side because it interested me on how things actually work. Never considered actually selling them until I saw the guys. Now, mind you, I'd always come to the office at 7 a.m. I'd clock in and then I'd clock out at 5 p.m. I sat in my cubicle. I brought my tuna sandwich every day. I was a hard worker. But I'd see the sales guys strolling at like 9 a.m.-ish, sometimes in shorts. Sometimes they'd leave for 3-hour lunches. Sometimes they wouldn't come to work at all. And I'd find out they were like on golf tournaments or in a hotel somewhere else. I said, man, what do those guys do? And they're like, well, those are the guys that sell the phone service. Those are the sales guys. I said, man, I need to get a sales job. And then I found out they made twice as much as me. They weren't even an hourly clocking in. They were on salary, and they just kind of did whatever, got their own car. I said, man, I got to get a job like that. So naturally, I went and tried to apply. Funny story is they said, well, you're not qualified because you have no sales experience. So I said, well, how the heck do you get sales experience if you don't have any, if you can't get any? And I remember even going to New York Life, and I took their aptitude test to become a salesman there. I tried to apply over there, and I failed. They actually said I wasn't qualified to be a sales guy. I said, well, dang it. Now, I'm going to be stuck in this cubicle for the rest of my career. But then a buddy of mine had called me and said he worked at this cell phone store, and he needed an outside sales guy. And he said, listen, I know you don't have any sales experience, but I think you're really good with people. He's like, and you know how technology works. He said, typically, if you know how something works, it's easier to sell it. You're not just this person that's, given a story. You actually know what it does and why it does it to better portray that to the client. But then the pay came, and he said, but I can only pay you this. Jeffrey, it was about half, if not a third of what I was making at the phone company. And unfortunately, I had great pay at CenturyLink. It was an amazing company where even when I was in the military and I got deployed to Iraq, for the 12 months I was gone, when I got back, CenturyTel actually augmented my paycheck and paid me the difference that I did not make while I was gone. Now that's a good company. a real American company. I like that. And he couldn't at all match the pay that CenturyLink was paying me. So it got to the point where, a month or two had gone by, and I was still like looking over the fence, like, man, I see these guys every day. I got to do something. I can't do this. And then the guy called me and said, hey, listen, I really want you, but I understand if you can't. He said, because of pay. So I'm going to give you, this was a Friday, I'm going to give you till Monday. And if you can let me know, then I'll go either way. And I had become friends with my boss at the phone company. I even went to him and told him what I wanted to do. And he said, man, I think that's a bad idea. I think you should stay here. This is a good job, good pay, good benefits. And at the time, I think I was 23 years old. And I remember going to church that Sunday, and I went to the Sunday night service. And this older lady walked up to me, and she put her hand on my shoulder. I was sitting kind of in the back row. And she said, listen, God told me you have a tough decision to make. Go ahead and do it. It's going to be okay. I mean, just an aha moment. And I kind of looked at her like, how the heck did you know that? Because I was praying. I was like, God, I got to know what to do. So I went in Monday morning and I quit. I said, listen, I'm gonna do this job with that guy. And again, boss said, I think you're making a bad decision. But God didn't. He saw it. And sure enough, I started working with the guy. And I'll tell you what, my first sales call, I bombed it. I mean, I was so nervous. I was scared. I couldn't talk. I was selling cell phones, and it doesn't seem hard to sell a cell phone, but make it the first time you ever do a sales call, and I was so scared. I think I was stuttering. But after a while, of course, my buddy taught me. He said, listen, you're not selling. He's like, you're a consultant. He's like, you're solving problems. You have to help people. He's like, you go in there and you ask them, what are your issues? And then you address those and you fix them and you provide solutions. And not everybody needs help. And I think that's the problem with a lot of salespeople is that they always try to sell something to somebody and they always try to make money. Whereas if you go through life trying to solve problems, then you're adding value. You're not actually selling something. And then before you know it, people are calling you because they know you're a problem solver. But as time would progress, I remember we had a credit card machine at our office. It was kind of cool the way God set this whole thing up. And the gentleman that was doing the credit cards for our company happened to be remodeling his house at the time. So he didn't have an office. So he was actually officing out of our office. We had cubicles in the back of the cell phone company. And we had become friends, me working in my cubicle and him working in his, him selling credit card machines, me selling cell phones. We'd go to lunch naturally, and he eventually said, I think you'd be good at selling this because you seem like a good business solutions solving problem salesman. Take a look at this. And I remember at the time he told me basically how it works and how they get paid. And it was interesting to me. I had never heard of the term residual income. Didn't know what it meant. So he explained that to me, and it interested me. So I started learning how to do it. And I, of course, just coming from a background of always trying to find something and make it better, the gentleman that I met, he only had one machine, and that was what they sold. I said, listen, why don't we try to do like a solutions-based system where we don't just tell the customer what we have, but we go to the customer and we find out what they need, and then we research other companies, other hardware and software capabilities, and if need be, build them ourselves. And of course, that was kind of way ahead of my time. It was kind of funny because even though I wanted to do all this, we only had the availability to do a couple extra hardware devices from different vendors that I went and sought out and found, and we started doing it. Now, of course, the gentleman that brought me in to do the cell phone company, I didn't want to leave him out. I didn't want to go not work for him, work for this guy. So I said, guys, why don't we start another company together where we bundle up this software solutions to incorporate phone communication and the movement of money, merchant services, all in one package, which is almost essentially what a point-of-sale system is now. It offers communication with clients, CRM, customer retention management systems, and the capabilities of payment options. So we started progressing and building this company, and not only building a software and hardware solutions-based company, but also what I wanted to do was build an infrastructure where not only just us two guys are selling, but that I go train other guys in other markets and teach them how to do it, because Shreveport is only this big. So if we can have revenue streams coming in from Abilene, Texas, from Billings, Montana, from St. Louis, Missouri, which are all other cities that we're officed out of, that we also have customers and sales guys in, that was the goal. And it was interesting because the more I progressed in learning, of course, and I was young, I was only 24, so I really had no idea about business. And because I didn't have a formal education via college, kind of had to learn everything the hard way. Had to learn sales the hard way, had to learn business the hard way. But I was able to learn a lot by every time I'd go sit down with a business owner to consult with what they needed and how to solve their problem. I think little did they know that I was actually grabbing a piece of education from them on how they built this. And what I mean this is whatever it was. Because I always started the conversation because it truly interests me. Business always interests me. Even to this day, I love hearing how people come up with ideas, package a product or solution, and then sell it to customers. That interests the heck out of me. And I love businesses that do manufacturing and actually create a tangible product. I always look at my business as like this middleman that's just allowing businesses to sell their product and kind of moving the money. But more so, I like looking at businesses and how they operate, what they produce, how they produce it, how you can make it more efficiently, and how to streamline that process. That really interests me. So going through the process of selling merchant services for a few years and really learning business, unfortunately, learning that our own little business wasn't exactly going the best, just from learning from other guys. And we kind of had a moment where it just turned out, I don't think the three of us collectively had the same philosophy. Whereas,
the same vision. No.
Some people, and there's different people. I always say there's 24 crayons in a box. Everybody likes something different. My interest was not in making a lot of money, but more so in solving the problems and actually growing a company to help, not myself, but to help build up income for other people. Because I just know, like, if you have a huge staff of people and they're doing great, you're going to do great too. Whereas if you're the only one making all the money and everybody else is doing all the work, it's going to fall apart. That empire will never stand. And we'd had different philosophies on that, and it worked out good because out of the three of us, we kind of all parted ways. And it was
how many years into
it was let's see, this was in 2009 and I started when I was 24, so it was about 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
And it had grown
of working together.
Yes,
the three
yes,
of you.
sir. Yeah. And
okay.
And again, the very hard lessons that I learned was going from making nothing to making something, and then overnight the entire thing collapsing and then making nothing again. A lot of hard lessons you learn at the bottom, but it makes for a firm foundation. So it allowed me to restart and retool my entire company, only utilizing my vision as opposed to having to work with other people. And if some young entrepreneurs can do it alone, I always try to recommend at least your one first core business that it's just you and you alone, because it's hard to have partners. It really is. When you're in partnership with other people, there's a lot of baggage that comes along with that. Being in a marriage, I'm married. My wife is my partner, so she's who I bounce off a lot of things now. That wasn't always the case. But if you're married and you have a wife, and then you bring in another partner or two, and they have wives, it becomes almost essentially a board, and not everybody always shares the same vision. The Bible talks about being unequally yoked, and that's very important. You have to coincide and think with the same mindset going together. That's always good to have other people's opinions and get outside direction. But when it's your company, you have to really know where your vision's going. And that allowed me to do that. Now, of course, I remember walking out with my 2-drawer chest of clients, which was just manila folders and the contracts, and saying, I'm going, I'm going to start this myself. Of course, with me, I couldn't take any money. It was just my clients. And I remember having to go back and call all my clients and say, listen, I've started my own company. And the coolest thing was, all my clients didn't know the name of my company. They said, listen, we did business with you. We don't even know the name of your company. So, sure, you're starting your own company, we'll move over. And so I slowly, as contracts ended with the other provider, and they were available to come on board to my new business that I started, I would move them over. And it was a tough 5 years, Jeffrey. I'll be honest.
And so we're what year when this is it?
At this time, this was I was about 29, 30 years old. So it was a good 10 years from in my 20s, and there were some rough years.
So fast forward me to 2024. What does MersaTech look like today? How many clients?
Oh, it's
where is it centrally located, and how many states are you in, and all of that?
We probably have clients, if I had to guess, in about 35 states. We have a huge footprint in Shreveport and in Denver, Colorado. We've escalated. If we're not there yet, we probably move about $1 billion a year.
$1 billion with a B.
Yes, sir, with a B.
How many clients approximately?
But probably 3,000.
Okay.
Probably 3,000. Some of them moving as much as $5 million in a month.
And you're a business. You own the building where you are, which is tell people where you are.
We're downtown in Shreveport, Louisiana. Yes, we do own the building, and it's funny because everything has progressed along the way, and everybody thinks that one day you're just going to wake up and it'll be there. No, it's just this path of learning and getting yourself with the right people. So just like the building that we own that we were renting at first.
Which is where exactly downtown?
It's on Marshall Street, right next to the old brewery.
Right.
Brewery, which now it's this really cool Gator Dental lab.
And you can see your signage, I believe, from I-20 as you're heading east. Look to your right.
Yes, it's super cool. And if you're looking from Gator Dental to downtown, we actually painted this huge mural of the downtown skyscape of Shreveport, Louisiana. Because let's face it, you do these podcasts because you love the city of Shreveport. I do too. I don't think anywhere that a young man with my past and lack of education could have navigated its way, networked to the success that we are today, had it not been for Shreveport and just the willingness of the community. Even people like I remember being 23 years old and this one man 10 years older than me kind of grabbed me and saying, "This is how you do business." And I remember thinking like, why is this guy helping me? But that's the way Shreveport is. It's filled with these people that genuinely care about the community and they want to help each other.
And I could hang out in MersaTech all day, but I'm not going to do it because there's so much I want to cover with you. So I'm going to fast forward you a little bit. In 2016, and I couldn't agree more about Shreveport, but I will say, because I know you personally, you're special too. So
thank you.
Yes,
Jeffrey.
Shreveport has great people and they poured into you, but you were also a great vessel for that. So I will say that. In 2016, you were elected as Caddo Parish's first Latino Commissioner. My question for you is, from your perspective, is the Hispanic community today unified? I got these mixed up. Okay. Is the Hispanic community unified with the white and black communities in the Shreveport-Bossier area? And if not, as you look around, what are some of the steps you feel could be taken to help bring these communities closer together?
First off, I truly believe that they are more unified than they have ever been. We live in a day and age, Jeffrey. It's unfortunately it's so divisive, and you see that specifically with the white and black community, specifically in politics with Republicans and Democrats. I like being Hispanic or Latino, if you will, and I like being independent for my political affiliation because I'm kind of right in the middle. It's almost kind of the way Hispanics are. We've traditionally been kind of this behind-the-scenes ethnic group that, we just had good family events and good food, and we were never really out there. Well, over the course of, I'd probably say the last decade, and this can be thanks to people like Vita Reiner, Gregory Kallenberg. We've had things like Taco Wars, the Day of the Dead, all these different festivals where people have realized the Hispanic community is this amazing family-oriented group of people that just wants to eat good food and have a lot of fun. I mean, you even see like Cinco de Mayo. That's not a Mexican party in Mexico, but I guarantee you on the 5th of May, white, black, Indian, Asian, those guys are having a party. And it's kind of funny because I always get invited. I'm like, guys, we kind of do this all the time. This is pretty standard. So I truly believe they're a lot more unified. Even so much as within the last recent 5 years, I've seen a big push, not just the culture of people being more unified, but the municipality accepting the Hispanic community in the sense where just within the last 5 years, we've had some bilingual representation to serve on the MPC, to serve on the parish commission, and it's been nice because that was never there before. You can even now go on the Metropolitan Planning Commission's website and toggle a switch, and the website will turn Spanish. That was never there, so you can see the progression. It's happening, and this may be a normal thing like in Los Angeles and New York, but it was behind in Shreveport. But I'm proud to say that it's really unifying in that aspect.
And the Hispanic community just continues to grow and grow here population-wise, right? I mean, it's becoming a greater and greater percentage of Shreveport-Bossier. And
you're so right. It originated, I really think the influx was from General Motors. But the cool thing was after GM,
which is how you ended up here.
Yes, sir.
Initially, right? Your dad worked for GM, and
a lot of them, like we moved from California. A lot of people moved here from California or Texas, the Hispanics, and then whenever GM closed down, a lot of the Hispanics left and went to Arlington or Michigan. Now, a lot of them have come back because we've realized, just like you and I realized, Shreveport is an amazing place. We have our problems, but what city doesn't? But the cost of living, the infrastructure in the sense of getting around, this is a great place to live. And that's why you see people migrating back from Michigan and from Arlington after they're done with their work at General Motors.
Yeah, I love the Hispanic community. The group, Vita and Bryant, have made this podcast what it is. And I've love knowing you and everything you've done for the city. So
before we get off that, this is funny because I always hear people gripe about this. When you see a new restaurant, another Mexican restaurant, but then the parking lot's packed and they stay open, and I'm like, well, y'all, if you're gonna keep eating it, we're gonna keep opening them. So
absolutely,
it's working.
Yeah, and the food's great.
Yes,
and I feel so lucky to see that part of our population growing because you guys are a great active giving part of this community.
Yes, sir.
So you ran for mayor, as many people know, of Shreveport in 2022 with a focus on crime, cleanliness, and customer service.
Yes, sir.
So let's talk Shreveport Citizens United. Shreveport Citizens United is a group you're actively involved in.
Yes, sir.
My question is, tell me a little about this group and how they're working to be on the front line of combating the issue of crime that our community continues to struggle with.
Absolutely. And the cool thing about, I think, God always has a plan, and I've seen that in my entire life. When I ran for mayor to address those three things, I was looking around like, how do we really fix this city? And a city essentially is a business just like a business. And everything that I had learned in the past basically had brought me to the point, if we have a clean city, if we have a customer service driven city, if it's friendly and if it's crime free, or at least low crime, we will succeed. Well, in the process of running for mayor, I got to meet a lot of people along the way, and we got to do a lot of town hall meetings and in places that I think would normally not unify people, but people also wanted a better city, just like you and I do. So they would come to those town hall meetings, and the cool thing was it was a collaboration of people from different walks of life actually addressing the problems. Because if you had gone to any of the town hall meetings that I had, it wasn't the typical politician, because I'm not a politician. I never wanted to be in politics. That's a funny story in itself. But I said, listen, instead of telling people what I'm going to do, why don't I just go ask them what they want and then do that? And that's, I think, why I was so successful as a commissioner is I just did what people asked me to do. And they'd always say, good job. And I said, well, I think that is my job. That's my job, just to do what you want and to represent you, to represent what you want. Well, in the course of going to a town hall meeting, a good friend of mine was able to sit in and hear some of the issues that a community that I don't think he would ever have walked in was having. And he said, I can address these issues. And he had a couple nonprofits that he's been invested in for decades in other countries and ministries that are near and dear to his heart that he's been pouring into. And unbeknownst to myself, and I almost think this may have been why God wanted me to run, is to move this needle. He came to me and he said, hey, listen, you were either going to win and I was going to work with you, or I wanted to start this and you were going to be on the board. And that was almost the inception of SCU is he really heard the hearts and gathered a couple people with the same heart for Shreveport and said, guys, we're not going to leave this up to the government to fix. We're a bunch of successful business owners. We know how to make things happen, and we're gonna make this work. And we've been doing exactly that. We met, we solidified a vision, and then we pushed it forward, and it's been going great so far. So SCU, we have our mission. It's to unite citizens of Shreveport, transcending race, socioeconomic status, or political affiliation by establishing cooperative relationships between citizens, civic leaders, and nonprofits with the purpose of reducing crime and violence in the city of Shreveport. And that's a mouthful, but it's almost the same thing in the sense as how do we address the most pressing issue with our city, and it's the crime. And if we can address that, and I think we've been doing just that, but a lot of people, when they say they want to do one thing, you have to look at the catalyst. Where is this all originating? And a lot of times it's something as simple as some kids didn't have the right equipment, the right housing, the right food, the proper transportation. They weren't able to get to school. And it all went downhill from there. So we basically broke out everything into how are we going to address this? And just like a business owner would do, is create departments and then department heads. And okay, you're taking this, you're good at this, you're taking this, and then soliciting the help of the people that want to volunteer, because we have a lot of people that want to do something, but they just don't know what to do. And what we've realized is we have a lot of people with talents that we just need to rein that in and say, okay, this is how we're doing this. And simultaneously, we already found we went on almost like a tour for 6 months on who's doing what in our community. Because there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of good things. But unfortunately, what we realized while I was running for mayor is a lot of the people that actually need the help don't know the people that are actually giving the help. So it was a lack of access, and we said, okay, how do we create the conduit that basically pulls in all these nonprofits that are doing really good work, but unfortunately are operating in silos because they're working off limited funds to actually solve the problem, but they don't know how to really market themselves and be scalable, which is what a business owner knows how to do. Why don't we use our skills of scalability and marketing, put all these people together, collaborate, and then figure out what are the needs. How do we put them in touch with the people fixing that? Where are the gaps? And how do we fill those gaps? And it's been tremendous because we've been doing exactly that. We've been having these huge neighborhood resource rallies where we go to these different neighborhoods and we just have a party. We let people know, look, we're not asking anything from you. We don't need money from the government. We decided to do it ourselves. And we're doing a lot of things on a level where at first, some people had some issues with it. It was interesting because we said, if we're the hands and feet of Christ, if we're doing this, we don't need government money because we're going to do this with the message of how do we love our neighbor. And that's having a resource rally in the neighborhood where we give away food, we give away gifts, we have fun, we have music, we have some team building skills. But simultaneously, we bring in all the nonprofits that maybe had never been able to access that neighborhood, but we set up tents and booths, and we allow the neighborhood to come out, and they win prizes, and they get to meet these people, and they sign up, and we start making those connections that could have never happened any other way other than that organic method of we're having a party, we're giving away food, come meet your neighbor, and come meet the people that are willing to help you or your neighbor if you need that help, or when you need that help, here's how to get in hold of them. And it's been a great endeavor.
And people listening, what can they like? Where where can people plug into SCU? Like if someone's listening saying, I want to do more, I want to help more, are there areas or gaps that SCU currently has that people could help fill? And what are some of those potentially gaps?
We're ShreveportSCU.org is our website, and you'll see on there like kind of our 10 points that we're working on addressing. One thing that we really need, and we've done good so far. We've had a lot of mentors step up, because we realize that we have a lot of young teens and even children that maybe don't have a good mentor in their life. I mean, I know personally. The reason that I've been so successful at business is I have a lot of business mentors that I look to ask, how do I do this? I know personally that I've helped a lot of young men that you'd be surprised at the things that we take for granted, that maybe just having somebody that they could call to rely on, to know that they're always there for them. That's one thing that we're really looking for, is how can we get some mentors? And of course, we've been working with some different organizations in town that vet these volunteers. They make sure that we do the background checks and do everything that's need to be done. But there's a lot of people that could just spend some time, maybe once a month, with a child here locally, and help do some things that could make the biggest difference in the city of Shreveport. Not today, but in 10 years, in 20 years, because that's what we realized. If we can help the kid today that's 6 years old, then in 10 years we'll be 16. That's unfortunately, we have a huge problem with our juveniles that are of the age of 13 to 19 that are committing the crimes and really raising the crime levels in our city. If we can address them at 6 and get it before it gets to that point, could you imagine what Shreveport could look like in a decade? So that's why it's like, okay, we just have to start today. And I know Jerome Cox, he's one of our board members. He's an amazing man. And he always says, imagine what can be done if you're willing to do something and not get the credit for it. And it's kind of like that old proverb of planting the tree to give shade to somebody else. That you're going to do something today, but the benefit will not go to you and you won't see it. But that's our goal as local leaders, as citizens of Shreveport, is to leave this city better than we found it.
And there's really something, tell me if I'm right or wrong, there's really a place for everyone in this community to serve with SCU if you want to do something about it and be a part of the solution, right?
There really is, Jeffrey. Because of all the great nonprofits that we already have, what we can do is we can either plug them in to volunteer with one of those that are already doing great things, or like one of the resource rallies we just had, this guy came out. He said, "Listen, all I know how to do is cook." He's like, and I don't know how that can help anybody. Man, they cooked some amazing food, and everybody was happy. We even had people that were just standing there in the parking lot, just waving to say, you park over here. It takes a lot of little movements to make big action. So I don't ever want anybody to discredit themselves to think that they can't help or they can't make a difference, because together is the only way we're going to fix the city.
Yeah, which I was looking at my great Together Shreveport van that you gave me when you were running for mayor. So I'm going to shift you again, and then I'm going to come back to something else. But during your time as commissioner, which I think ran from 2016 to 2023, you always struck me as someone who could work across party lines and get things accomplished. So my question's kind of twofold. My first part of the question is, have you always understood diplomacy and how to be diplomatic? And in a community where politics often continues to separate us, what are some words of wisdom you can share with the rest of us to help us get along and work better with those who may think differently than we do?
Great two-part question. So the first one's easy. I was the middle child. I grew up in the middle. The first child, I don't want to say got all the love, but got all the attention, and the baby's always the baby. So I was kind of stuck in the middle. Grew up in a Hispanic family. There was 6, 7 brothers and sisters. So I had to get along with all of them. And it really taught me growing up how to navigate those waters, and then simultaneously moving to Shreveport, Louisiana from California. It was quite the culture shock. There wasn't a lot of Hispanics when I first moved here, and I remember the way that I dressed coming from Southern California was very different. So I was a very oddball out moving here. and I had to make my way figuring out how to get along with people that didn't look like me and were from a whole different community. But it wasn't hard. I took that with me to politics. It's interesting when today we live in such a day and age where people are so polarized with their beliefs that a lot of people are stuck in their ways to think the way that I think is the way that I think, and since you disagree, we can't be friends. But if you put that down for a minute and you just go talk to the other person, I've realized that if a lot of people break bread together and realize what the common denominator is between them, what unifies them, as opposed to what makes them different, a lot of people today would figure out that they're a lot more in common than they are different. And that was one benefit being on the commission with such a diverse board, is I didn't care about that, because coming from Southern California, there's not like a two-party race system in California, kind of like we have in Shreveport, Louisiana. It's so diverse in Southern California that you can't really pick out one ethnic type and say here is this and that. It's everything. And so I was so used to dealing with that that it wasn't that hard to navigate that through here. But I did see a big culture shock when I did move here, that kind of is the standard in the MO in Shreveport. But my family's just not like that. It's, of course, being Hispanic too, again, we're always kind of stuck in the middle. It's always been, we just get along with everybody because we're kind of the guys in the back. And it's been great. It really was a good experience being on the parish commission.
So how do you, I mean, this is kind of a strange question, but in that thing you said to me at the very beginning of, I grew up wanting to take things apart and making them different. Like, how did you engage with someone who at first blush saw you and maybe was resistant or saw you as the enemy or saw you on the other side? Like, how did you kind of bring them down, ground the conversation, and maybe begin a process of transformation?
Jeffrey, my pastor says this all the time. If you want friends, you must first find yourself friendly. It's hard to be combative or standoffish to somebody that's friendly. Walk up to somebody and give them a smile. If you extend your hand first, it's hard for somebody to not. It's almost like human nature, where if somebody comes in to give you a hug, if they smile at you, you almost can't not do that. So I found that if I went with the approach of trying to help them and help whatever they were trying to do or understand, because a lot of times in politics, we truly have people that want to do right by their community, by their neighborhood, and even their political affiliation. And it may be that we disagree with how they do it, but ultimately, who doesn't want a better city? Who doesn't want a better neighborhood? Who doesn't want cleaner streets? Who doesn't want lower crime? I think ultimately, for the most part, most politicians are doing what they believe is the best for their area. So if you find the common ground on how do you guys work together to not only achieve that for them, but get your whatever you're trying to achieve, get that done as well simultaneously and unify that, they're not going to see you as somebody that's on the other side. They're going to say, man, this is somebody that I can work with.
I love that. It's perfect. Well, Mario, those are my set questions for you. We've got all the time in the world. If there's anything else you want to mention, if not, no pressure, but I have the utmost respect for you, everything you've accomplished. I'm one of your biggest fans, and I really appreciate you making the time to be here.
Jeffrey, I like that you guys are doing this because it's just like what we talked about a moment ago, where a lot of people they feel kind of helpless, like they want to help, but they don't know what they can do. If you make a difference right where you are today, if you go outside at your own house and you pick up some trash, or you see your neighbor, and as opposed to looking at it like, oh man, they haven't mowed their lawn in 2 months. Well, what if something's going on in their life? What if you just mowed it for them? The saying is, be the change you want to see. And I think a lot of us are starting to adopt that. And I really like the movement where a lot of people like to hate on Shreveport, but a lot of the people, our own people here in Shreveport, the Shreveport citizens, are starting to say, well, at least be on your own team, because we need to promote ourselves. And that's the thing that I'm starting to see, and it's really starting to catch on, and I like it. Mayor Arsenault, he's got Love Shreveport. We need to believe in ourselves, as opposed to just saying, hey, we're going to lose this game, put our heads down in the locker room before the game even starts. We need to sit around, rally, and say, we can do this. We're gonna try our hardest, and we may just mess around and win tonight's basketball game. We may just mess around and win, and Shreveport be the city that we always wanted, but it's going to take all of us doing whatever we can do, whether it be a podcast, whether it be what you guys do at the Y, because I see that. I go there. I see what you guys are doing with the kids. You guys have the same MO of, okay, let's get them now, so that in 20 years, we have these citizens. You guys are investing in our youth right now. Everybody can find somewhere to plug into, and I like that we're all doing that collectively.
Yeah, well, you're a great example, a great role model. You've been a tremendous force in this community, and I so appreciate you.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.